Welcome to the English Podcast.
For listening and speaking.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Emily, and today we're exploring how different generations communicate.
And I'm Brian. This topic hits close to home for so many families and workplaces.
Absolutely. We see these communication styles clashing everywhere from boardrooms to dinner tables nowadays.
Right. Let's start with the workplace. Gen Z employees prefer instant messaging over phone calls.
Exactly. While boomers often interpret that as impersonal or even disrespectful in some contexts,
It's fascinating how each generation developed their preferred communication methods during different technological eras.
that's such a key point. Boomers grew up with face-to-face meetings and formal letters.
Gen X embraced email as revolutionary, while millennials pioneered social media communication styles.
And now, Gen Z communicates through memes, short videos, and expects immediate responses to everything.
Right. This creates tension when a boomer manager schedules a lengthy meeting for simple updates.
While younger employees think that same information could have been shared in a quick Slack message, let's talk more about meetings because they're where these generational differences become most visible. Older managers often view meetings as essential relationship-building time.
They see the casual conversation before and after meetings as valuable for team cohesion and understanding workplace dynamics. These informal interactions inform their decision-making.
While younger employees often see extended meetings as inefficient time that could be spent on actual work, they prefer to receive information, make decisions, and move forward quickly.
This creates a fundamental tension about what meetings are supposed to accomplish. One generation sees them as process-oriented relationship maintenance, the other as outcome-focused information exchange.
Management and leadership styles demonstrate some of the most significant generational communication differences in professional environments. These affect everything from team motivation to performance feedback.
Older managers often employ more formal, hierarchical communication patterns. They provide detailed instructions, clear chains of command, and expect regular progress reports through established channels.
While younger managers tend to favor collaborative approaches, flexible communication methods, and employee autonomy, they often prefer coaching conversations over directive management styles.
Performance feedback represents another area where generational communication preferences create workplace friction. Traditional performance reviews follow formal, scheduled evaluation processes.
While younger employees often prefer continuous, informal feedback, peer-to-peer evaluations, and real-time recognition for achievements rather than waiting for annual review cycles.
Professional development and learning preferences also reflect these generational communication patterns in ways that affect career advancement opportunities.
Older employees often prefer formal training programs, mentorship relationships, and structured learning environments with clear objectives and measurable outcomes.
While younger employees gravitate toward microlearning, online resources, peer-to-peer knowledge sharing, and learning through experimentation and project-based challenges.
Professional networking and relationship building reveal some fascinating generational communication patterns that affect career development and business success.
Traditional networking emphasizes in-person events, industry conferences, golf course conversations, and building long-term professional relationships through consistent face-to-face interactions.
While digital native professionals leverage LinkedIn, Twitter, professional Discord servers, and online communities to build broader, more diverse networks that cross geographical boundaries.
The value each approach brings to professional development is significant. Traditional networking builds deep, trusted relationships, while digital networking enables rapid information sharing and access to diverse perspectives.
Knowledge transfer between generations is becoming increasingly critical as experienced employees retire and organizations risk losing decades of institutional knowledge.
Traditional mentoring involves long-term relationships, where senior employees gradually share expertise through storytelling, shadowing opportunities, and informal guidance over months or years.
While younger employees often prefer structured knowledge transfer through documentation, video tutorials, searchable databases, and reverse mentoring where they teach technology skills to senior colleagues, let me share some more specific workplace examples that listeners might recognize from their own experiences. I worked with a law firm recently where generational communication differences were creating significant billing and client relationship challenges.
That sounds complex. What were the specific communication patterns causing problems in that environment?
The senior partners preferred detailed written memos for case updates and formal meetings to discuss strategy. They billed clients for these lengthy consultation sessions as valuable strategic planning time.
While the younger associates were communicating case developments through instant messaging, shared documents, and brief video calls that they considered more efficient and cost-effective for clients.
The clients were caught in the middle, receiving mixed messages about billable hours and case progress. Some older clients felt more confident with the formal approach, while younger clients questioned whether they were being overcharged for unnecessary meetings.
That's a perfect example of how generational communication patterns affect business outcomes, not just workplace relationships. The solution required aligning communication methods with client expectations rather than imposing one approach universally.
Parenting communication styles provide another fascinating lens for examining generational differences. How parents communicate with their children reflects their own generational values and experiences.
Traditional parenting often emphasized authority-based communication with clear rules, consequences, and limited negotiation. Children were expected to respect parental decisions without extensive explanation.
While many younger parents prefer collaborative communication approaches, explaining reasoning behind rules, encouraging questions, and involving children in family decision-making processes appropriate for their age.
This creates interesting intergenerational tensions when grandparents observe parenting styles that differ significantly from their own approaches, especially around discipline and communication with children.
Technology adoption patterns reveal some of the most dramatic generational communication differences we observe in modern society. The pace and method of learning new technologies varies significantly across age groups.
Older adults often prefer comprehensive instruction, written manuals, and step-by-step guidance when learning new technologies. They want to understand the underlying principles before implementing new digital tools.
While younger generations typically learn through experimentation, trial and error exploration, and intuitive interaction with new technologies, they often skip formal instruction and learn by doing.
This fundamental difference in learning styles creates challenges in family tech support situations, workplace training programs, and even customer service interactions for technology companies.
Financial communication represents another area where generational differences create significant family and workplace tensions. How different generations discuss money, savings, and financial planning reflects their economic experiences and values.
Older generations, having lived through different economic cycles, often communicate about money with more caution, emphasis on saving, and preference for traditional investment approaches. They may be reluctant to discuss specific financial details.
While younger generations often communicate more openly about financial challenges, seek advice through online communities, and express different attitudes toward debt, investment risk, and financial transparency.
These differences become particularly challenging during major life transitions like retirement planning, inheritance discussions, or family financial crises where clear communication across generations is essential.
Social movements and activism reveal fascinating generational communication patterns that reflect different approaches to creating social change and engaging with political issues.
Traditional activism emphasized sustained organizational efforts, formal petitions, letter-writing campaigns, and building coalitions through existing political and social institutions over extended periods of time.
While digital native activists often prefer rapid mobilization through social media, viral campaigns, online fundraising, and coordinated actions that can organize massive responses in days rather than months or years.
Both approaches have created meaningful social change, but the communication strategies and timeline expectations can create tensions when different generations try to collaborate on shared causes.
Religious and spiritual communities provide another context where generational communication differences create both challenges and opportunities for intergenerational understanding and growth.
Older generations in religious communities often prefer traditional worship formats, formal language, established rituals, and hierarchical communication structures that have been preserved for generations.
While younger generations often seek more interactive worship experiences, contemporary language, multimedia presentations, and opportunities for dialogue and questioning rather than one-way communication from religious leaders.
Religious institutions often struggle to accommodate both communication styles, while maintaining their core spiritual mission and community cohesion across different age groups.
Regional and geographical factors add additional complexity to generational communication patterns. Rural, urban, and suburban environments shape how different generations experience and express their communication preferences.
Rural communities often maintain stronger traditional communication patterns across generations, with more emphasis on face-to-face relationships, community gatherings, and slower adoption of digital communication technologies.
While urban environments typically accelerate the adoption of new communication technologies across all age groups, creating more blended generational communication styles and faster adaptation to digital platforms.
Cultural background adds another layer of complexity to generational communication patterns. Immigrant families often navigate multiple sets of generational expectations while adapting to new cultural communication norms.
First-generation immigrants often maintain traditional communication styles from their home cultures, while their children and grandchildren adopt communication patterns from their new cultural environment, creating unique, intergenerational challenges.
This creates situations where younger family members serve as cultural and technological translators between their parents or grandparents and mainstream American communication expectations.
Different industries experience these generational communication challenges in unique ways. In construction, for example, traditional apprenticeship models rely heavily on hands-on demonstration and verbal instruction from experienced workers.
But younger workers often expect video tutorials, digital project management tools, and safety information delivered through mobile apps rather than relying solely on traditional mentorship communication methods.
The hospitality industry faces similar challenges. Experienced hotel managers often communicate service standards through personal observation, verbal feedback, and traditional training programs emphasizing professional protocols.
While younger hospitality workers often prefer quick digital communication for shift changes, instant feedback through rating systems, and learning through interactive online modules rather than lengthy orientation sessions.
Let me share some success stories that demonstrate how organizations have effectively bridged these generational communication gaps. I worked with a nonprofit organization recently that was struggling with intergenerational board tensions.
What was happening there? That sounds like a common challenge for boards trying to balance experience with fresh perspectives.
Exactly that. The older board members valued extensive committee work, formal reports, and quarterly meetings where they could thoroughly discuss every decision. They saw this as responsible governance and fiscal accountability.
While the younger board members wanted more agile decision-making, digital collaboration tools, and the ability to respond quickly to community needs and funding opportunities without waiting for formal meeting schedules.
The breakthrough came when they implemented what they called a dual-track governance system. Major decisions and financial oversight maintained the formal committee structure that experienced members trusted.
But they also created rapid response teams for time-sensitive opportunities, program innovations, and community outreach initiatives that could operate through digital platforms with streamlined approval processes.
The results were remarkable. They increased their grant funding by 30% because they could respond to opportunities quickly, while maintaining the financial oversight and strategic planning that prevented costly mistakes.
That's a perfect example of honoring both communication styles instead of choosing one over the other. Each approach brought value to the organization's overall effectiveness.
Mental health and therapy represent another crucial area where generational communication differences create significant barriers to accessing and receiving effective care.
That's such an important point. Older generations often approach therapy with more formal expectations, preferring structured sessions, clinical settings, and traditional therapeutic relationships with clear professional boundaries.
While younger people often seek more flexible therapeutic approaches, including online therapy, text-based counseling, peer support groups, and therapists who feel more like collaborative partners than authority figures.
The communication style differences also affect how different generations discuss mental health within families, creating barriers to understanding and support across age groups.
Economic factors also significantly influence generational communication patterns. Different generations experience distinct economic realities during their formative years, which shape their communication priorities and resource allocation decisions.
Generations that experienced economic scarcity often prioritize cost-effective communication methods and may be hesitant to invest in new technologies or premium communication services.
While younger generations, despite facing different economic challenges like student debt, often view communication technology as essential infrastructure worth the investment for efficiency and connection.
Crisis communication during emergencies reveals particularly stark generational differences that can have life or death consequences for community safety and family coordination.
During natural disasters or emergencies, older adults often rely on traditional emergency broadcast systems, radio updates, and phone calls to family members for information and coordination.
While younger people typically turn to social media platforms, emergency apps, text messaging, and crowdsourced information from multiple digital sources for real-time updates and coordination.
This creates coordination challenges during family emergencies when different family members are monitoring different information sources and expecting different types of communication from each other.
Intergenerational mentorship programs provide fascinating examples of how these communication differences can be transformed into mutual learning opportunities rather than sources of conflict.
The most successful programs I've observed design structured communication frameworks that honor both traditional mentoring approaches and modern collaborative learning preferences.
For example, reverse mentoring programs, where younger employees teach technology skills while learning business wisdom from experienced colleagues, create balanced communication exchanges that benefit both parties.
Retail and service industries face unique challenges, serving customers across generational divides. Store employees often need to code switch between communication styles depending on the customer's apparent age and preferences.
Successful retailers train their staff to recognize communication cues and adapt their approach accordingly. They might offer detailed explanations and personal attention to some customers while providing quick, efficient service to others who prefer minimal interaction.
Looking toward the future, these generational communication patterns will continue evolving. As current digital natives age, they may develop their own preferences for different communication styles, creating new intergenerational dynamics.
Emerging technologies like artificial intelligence, virtual reality, and new social platforms will likely create fresh generational divides as younger people adopt these tools, while older generations may prefer the digital communication methods they've already mastered.
Organizations that invest time in understanding and accommodating these communication differences consistently outperform those that assume one communication style fits all stakeholders and clients.
For listeners who want to implement these ideas practically, start by auditing your current communication methods. Are you defaulting to one approach because it's comfortable for you? Or are you genuinely choosing the most effective method for your audience?
Create communication profiles for important relationships in your life. Notice patterns in how different people prefer to receive information, give feedback, resolve conflicts, and maintain connections.
In workplaces, consider establishing communication norms for different types of interactions. Maybe urgent issues require phone calls, project updates happen through email, brainstorming occurs in collaborative digital spaces, and relationship building happens in person.
Manufacturing and technical industries present unique generational communication challenges around safety protocols, equipment training, and quality control processes that require precise information transfer.
Experienced manufacturing workers often communicate critical safety information through hands-on demonstration, storytelling about past incidents, and verbal warnings that emphasize the serious consequences of mistakes.
While younger workers often prefer visual safety protocols, video demonstrations, digital checklists, and data-driven explanations of why specific procedures are necessary for both safety and efficiency. Let me share another compelling example from the education sector. I worked with a community college that was struggling with retention rates because their diverse student body spanning 4 generations couldn't connect effectively with each other or with faculty.
That's a really interesting context, because community colleges often serve such a diverse age range. What specific communication challenges were they encountering?
The traditional age students expected immediate responses to emails, group projects conducted entirely through digital collaboration platforms, and informal communication styles with professors. They were comfortable challenging ideas in class discussions.
While the adult learners returning to school expected more formal academic protocols, preferred email over text-based communication, and wanted clear hierarchical relationships between students and instructors. They felt intimidated by the casual classroom dynamics.
The faculty were caught in the middle, trying to maintain academic rigor while accommodating completely different learning and communication expectations. Many courses became dominated by one communication style, alienating students who preferred different approaches.
How did they solve this? I imagine it required some creative approaches to make everyone feel included and engaged in the learning process.
They developed what they called communication choice architecture. Students could select from multiple ways to participate in discussions, submit assignments, and interact with professors. Some chose traditional essays and formal presentations, others created multimedia projects or collaborative digital portfolios.
That sounds brilliant. By offering multiple pathways instead of forcing everyone into one communication mold, they probably saw improvements in both engagement and learning outcomes.
Exactly. Their retention rates improved by 22% within 2 years, and student satisfaction surveys showed dramatic increases in feelings of belonging and academic confidence across all age groups.
Government and public sector organizations face unique challenges managing generational communication differences because they must serve and employ people across the entire age spectrum while maintaining consistency and accessibility.
Public services illustrate this perfectly. Older citizens often prefer in-person visits to government offices, phone calls for assistance, and printed forms and documentation that they can review carefully at home.
While younger citizens expect online portals, mobile responsive websites, digital document submission, and real-time tracking of application status, they want government services to function like the consumer apps they use daily.
Internally, government agencies struggle with generational communication differences between long-term civil servants and newer hires who expect more agile, technology-enabled workflows and decision-making processes.
For workplace leaders listening to this, implementing generational communication strategies requires both systemic changes and individual relationship management. Start with communication audits to understand current patterns and preferences across your team.
Create communication protocols that specify when to use different methods. For instance, urgent issues might always require phone calls or in-person conversations, while project updates could be shared through multiple channels simultaneously to accommodate different preferences.
Long-term organizational success requires building communication flexibility into your culture rather than treating it as a one-time training initiative. This means regularly reassessing communication effectiveness and adapting as your workforce demographics change.
Financial services provide another fascinating case study in generational communication adaptation. Banks and financial advisors must navigate dramatically different expectations for how clients want to discuss and manage their money.
Traditional banking relationships emphasize face-to-face meetings, paper statements, personal relationships with specific branch personnel, and formal documentation for all financial decisions and advice.
While digital-first banking customers expect mobile apps, automated financial advice through robo-advisors, instant transaction notifications, and the ability to complete all banking tasks without ever speaking to a human representative.
Successful financial institutions have learned to offer multiple service channels simultaneously, rather than forcing all customers into one model. They maintain branch locations with personal service while also investing heavily in digital infrastructure.
Family-owned businesses face particularly intense generational communication challenges because professional and personal relationships intersect in complex ways. Business decisions become intertwined with family dynamics and communication patterns.
Succession planning in family businesses often fails because different generations have completely different expectations about how leadership transitions should be communicated and implemented. Traditional approaches emphasize gradual, relationship-based knowledge transfer.
While next-generation family members often want more transparent, documented processes with clear timelines, formal performance metrics, and systematic approaches to leadership development rather than informal mentoring relationships.
Cross-cultural considerations add another layer of complexity to generational communication patterns. What we've discussed today primarily reflects patterns in Western individualistic cultures, but these dynamics look very different in collectivistic cultures where age and hierarchy carry different meanings.
In many Asian, African, and Latin American cultures, traditional respect for elders creates different generational communication dynamics, where younger people might adopt new technologies but still maintain formal, hierarchical communication styles with older family members and colleagues.
Organizations implementing generational communication strategies need to measure their effectiveness through both quantitative metrics and qualitative feedback. Track engagement rates across different communication channels, response times, and participation levels by age group.
But the qualitative feedback is equally important. Conduct regular focus groups with different generations to understand whether communication methods are creating inclusion or inadvertently excluding certain age groups from important conversations and decisions.
Exactly. Neither approach is wrong, but the clash happens when neither side understands the other's perspective.
I want to share a specific example I witnessed at a marketing firm recently. The younger employees were collaborating on a project through shared Google Docs and Slack channels,
while the senior executives kept asking for formal presentations and printed reports to review the progress. Both groups were working hard, but in completely different ways.
The tension escalated when the senior team interpreted the digital collaboration as secretive or exclusionary, while the younger team felt micromanaged by constant requests for formal updates.
What finally worked was creating a hybrid system. The younger employees maintained their collaborative digital workflow, but provided weekly visual dashboards that the executives could review.
And the executives started joining some of the digital brainstorming sessions to better understand the creative process. Both sides had to stretch, but the results improved dramatically. I've seen this in my own workplace. Different generations interpret directness versus politeness completely differently.
Oh, that's huge. Younger employees often prefer straightforward feedback without all the diplomatic cushioning.
While older generations might view that directness as rude or lacking appropriate professional courtesy, these same patterns show up in educational settings too. I've noticed how different generations of teachers and students approach classroom communication completely differently.
Oh, that's fascinating. Older teachers often prefer traditional classroom hierarchies, where students listen respectfully and ask questions only at appropriate times.
While students today expect more interactive, collaborative learning environments, they want to contribute ideas immediately, challenge concepts, and engage in real-time discussions about course material.
And younger teachers often struggle with older students who expect more formal, structured approaches to instruction and may be uncomfortable with peer-to-peer learning models.
Technology adds another layer of complexity in educational settings. Digital natives expect multimedia presentations, interactive online components, and immediate access to supplementary resources.
While some older educators and students prefer traditional lecture formats, printed materials, and face-to-face office hours for getting additional help or clarification.
Healthcare is another critical area where these generational communication patterns create real challenges with significant consequences for patient outcomes.
Absolutely. Older patients often expect longer consultations where doctors explain conditions thoroughly, answer questions patiently, and maintain a more formal bedside manner.
While younger patients often prefer efficient appointments, direct answers to specific questions, and digital access to test results and follow-up information.
And from the provider side, older doctors might feel uncomfortable with patients who have researched their conditions online and want to discuss specific treatments or medication options.
While younger healthcare providers might feel frustrated with patients who want extensive explanations for routine procedures or who prefer phone calls over patient portals for simple questions. Speaking of relationships, dating and romantic communication patterns show some of the most dramatic generational differences we see in modern society.
Absolutely. Older generations typically met through mutual friends, work, or community activities, which built in natural conversation starters and shared social contexts.
While younger generations navigate dating apps, online profiles, and digital communication that requires completely different social skills and communication strategies.
The pace of communication in romantic relationships has changed dramatically too. Traditional courtship involved slower relationship development with formal dates and gradual emotional intimacy.
While modern dating often involves constant texting, social media interactions, and much more rapid progression of personal disclosure and emotional connection.
Absolutely. And then there's the whole hierarchy thing that varies dramatically between generations.
Yeah, boomers often expect more formal deference to authority and established chains of command.
While younger generations prefer flatter organizations, where everyone's voice carries equal weight regardless of tenure.
Which can feel threatening to older employees who work decades to earn their current positions.
Right. It's not about disrespect, though. Different generations just define respect and authority very differently.
Consumer behavior is another fascinating area where these generational communication patterns become really apparent, especially in retail and customer service interactions.
Right. Older consumers often prefer speaking with knowledgeable salespeople, building relationships with local business owners, and receiving detailed explanations about products before purchasing.
While younger consumers often research independently online, prefer self-service options, and want quick, friction-free transactions without extensive sales interactions.
This creates interesting challenges for businesses trying to serve multiple generations. The customer service approaches that delight one group can frustrate another group completely.
Exactly. Let's shift to family dynamics because these communication patterns show up there too.
Oh, absolutely. Holiday gatherings become perfect laboratories for observing these generational communication differences in action.
The classic scenario: grandparents want long phone conversations, while grandkids prefer quick text updates.
And both sides feel rejected. Grandparents think grandkids don't care, while kids feel overwhelmed.
It's heartbreaking because the love is there, but the communication styles create distance instead.
Yes, and parents get caught in the middle, trying to bridge these different expectations constantly.
I see this with storytelling too. Older generations prefer detailed narratives with full context,
While younger family members want the highlights, the main point delivered quickly and efficiently.
Neither approach is wrong, but it leads to frustration when Grandpa starts every story from,
Right. And then grandchildren zone out or interrupt, making Grandpa feel like his stories don't matter.
Technology adds another layer of complexity to family communication patterns across different age groups.
Oh, definitely. Like when grandparents finally join Facebook but don't understand the social etiquette there.
Exactly. They comment on everything with the same enthusiasm they'd show in face-to-face conversations.
While younger generations have learned to calibrate their online interactions very differently for different platforms.
And then there's the whole thing about sharing personal information online that creates family tensions.
Oh yes, older generations might overshare because they approach social media like personal conversations.
While younger people have grown up understanding that online posts are essentially public broadcasting.
Exactly. And this creates embarrassment and conflict when different generations have different privacy expectations.
Entertainment consumption patterns reveal another fascinating dimension of generational communication differences. How people choose, discuss, and share media reflects their communication values.
That's really interesting. Older generations often prefer scheduled programming, shared viewing experiences, and discussing shows or movies in detail after watching them together.
While younger generations prefer on-demand content, simultaneous social media commentary during viewing, and bite-sized discussions through memes and short video responses.
The way different generations discover and recommend entertainment also differs significantly. Older viewers often rely on traditional reviews, word-of-mouth recommendations, and established media criticism.
While younger audiences depend more on algorithm-driven recommendations, influencer endorsements, social media trends, and peer recommendations through digital platforms.
This creates interesting family dynamics when different generations want to share media experiences, but have completely different approaches to discovering and discussing entertainment.
Let's talk about how these communication differences show up in community involvement and civic engagement.
That's fascinating territory. Older generations often prefer traditional community organizing through established institutions and meetings.
While younger generations organize through social media, online petitions, and more grassroots digital movements.
And both sides sometimes question the legitimacy or effectiveness of the other's approach to advocacy.
Right. Older generations might dismiss online activism as lazy or superficial compared to traditional organizing.
While younger generations see traditional meetings and committees as outdated, slow, and exclusionary in many ways.
But both approaches have real value and can actually complement each other when combined effectively.
Absolutely. The most successful community initiatives I've seen blend traditional relationship building with modern outreach methods.
And there's something about how different generations define community itself that affects their communication patterns.
That's a great point. Older generations often think of community as geographically based neighborhoods and institutions.
while younger generations create communities around shared interests, values, or identities regardless of physical location.
So, their communication styles reflect these different community concepts. One emphasizes local, sustained, face-to-face relationships.
The other prioritizes broader networks, rapid information sharing, and connecting across traditional geographical boundaries.
Neither is inherently better, but the mismatch can cause real friction when generations try to collaborate.
Exactly, like when a neighborhood association tries to incorporate younger residents but only communicates through newsletters.
Right. While the younger residents are looking for Instagram updates, group chats, or interactive online platforms.
And then both sides feel frustrated that the other isn't engaged in the way they expect.
It's interesting how these patterns repeat across workplace, family, and community contexts with remarkable consistency.
Definitely. So what can people do to bridge these communication gaps more effectively in their own lives?
I think the first step is recognizing that these differences aren't personal failings or character flaws.
Right. They're learned communication patterns that developed in response to different technological and social contexts.
Exactly. Once you understand that, you can start asking questions about preferences instead of making assumptions.
Like in families, maybe asking grandparents what communication methods make them feel most connected.
And asking younger family members how they prefer to share information and stay in touch.
Then finding compromises that honor both styles instead of insisting that everyone adapt to one approach.
In workplaces, this might mean offering multiple communication channels for the same information or feedback.
So some people get the detailed email, others get the quick Slack message. Everyone gets what works.
And being explicit about communication expectations rather than assuming everyone shares the same unspoken rules.
That's huge, like saying I prefer phone calls for complex topics instead of being offended by texts.
Or saying I process information better in writing, instead of seeming distracted during lengthy verbal explanations.
Another thing that helps is recognizing the strengths each generational communication style brings to situations.
Absolutely. Older generations often excel at building deep, sustained relationships through their communication approaches.
While younger generations bring efficiency, inclusivity, and adaptability to communication challenges that organizations face.
When you combine those strengths, instead of seeing them as opposing forces, you get much better outcomes.
I think patience is really important too, especially when people are learning new communication technologies or styles.
Yes. It's natural to feel awkward or slow when adopting communication methods that weren't part of your formative years.
And that awkwardness isn't resistance or stubbornness, it's just the normal learning process for any new skill. Let's explore how different generations approach conflict resolution, because these patterns affect every relationship and organization where multiple generations interact.
Older generations often prefer addressing conflicts through direct private conversations, sometimes involving mediators or established authorities to help resolve disputes.
While younger generations might prefer transparent group discussions, collaborative problem-solving processes, or even temporarily stepping back from conflict to process emotions independently.
The timing of conflict resolution also varies dramatically. Older generations might want to address issues immediately when they arise, believing that quick resolution prevents problems from festering.
While younger people often need time to research, reflect, and possibly discuss the situation with friends before engaging in conflict resolution conversations.
These different approaches to conflict resolution create additional layers of misunderstanding when the conflict resolution process itself becomes a source of tension between generations. Teaching and learning should go both ways too. Younger people can learn relationship building from older generations,
while older generations can learn efficiency and broader outreach strategies from younger people's communication approaches.
The goal isn't for everyone to communicate identically, but for everyone to communicate effectively across generational differences.
That's beautifully put. It's about building bridges rather than insisting that everyone move to your side.
And remembering that communication is ultimately about connection, understanding, and accomplishing shared goals together.
Which brings us back to relationships. The method matters less than the genuine effort to understand each other.
Exactly. Whether that understanding happens through a long phone call or a series of thoughtful text messages.
Before we wrap up, are there any specific strategies you'd recommend for listeners dealing with these issues?
Start small. Pick one relationship where communication feels strained and have an honest conversation about preferences.
Great advice, and try the other person's preferred method at least once before dismissing it as ineffective.
Yes, and pay attention to when misunderstandings happen. They often reveal different communication assumptions at work.
Also, don't take communication style differences personally. They're usually about comfort and familiarity, not about respect.
And remember that learning new communication skills benefits everyone, regardless of age or generation they represent.
This has been such a rich conversation. Thank you, Brian, for exploring these important dynamics with me.
Thank you, Emily. I hope our listeners find practical ways to strengthen their cross-generational relationships.
To our audience, try one new approach this week and see what happens. You might be surprised.
Until next time, keep building those bridges. Thanks everyone for listening to Bridging Generations.